have cameras today recording all this. It's an exciting moment here at the Steve Furgal Banquet Conference.
I didn't think anyone still cared about me, so this is really cool. Thank you guys.
Well, we're going to share the mic. Is that okay?
Yeah,
and then
sure.
I'll hold it if that's okay. So Jon, I know you can't get away from tennis too much because you're here, you know, at the tournament. But how is retirement life treating you?
It's good. It's good, but I'd be lying to you if I told you it was easy. I mean, I think when athletes retire, you go through a phase that's, you know, it's pretty difficult because it's not what you're used to for really ever since my college days, because I played at a high level there, and this is 20 years of my life playing, go Dogs, that's right. 20 years of my life playing this sport at a very, very high level, and that's really, I looked at it like a 365-day-a-year job. So I took a lot of pride into preparing myself and so I could play for a long time, which I did. 17 years on the pro tour, and then you know, and then when that sort of abruptly ends, you're onto a different phase of your professional life. But luckily for me, I got a great family at home. I think without that, I think it would be more difficult for sure. But this sport's given me so much. It's the reason I met my wife, and it's the reason I have my family now. So I owe everything to this sport. So, you know, staying close to it in some respects is very good for me right now.
Well, I think, have we possibly seen a glimpse of your next move? You've been on the Tennis Channel commentating and doing an amazing job. Am I right?
Well, I think you are being very nice. But look, it's my first foray into television. You know, at the TC Live desk, which I'm doing tomorrow as well, and just calling matches with you know, some of the Tennis Channel folk, and they've done me a solid by putting me in there with a lot of their best pros to sort of tee it up for me. To be able to call a match with a guy like Brett Haber, and I think Jim Curry tomorrow will be a treat. So they're very, very good at what they do. It's a learning process, just like anything. I feel like I am getting better each and every day. There's a lot of cadence you got to get used to, when to talk, when not to talk, when to wrap up what you're saying. And it's a lot of fun. I mean, I've made a few mistakes so far, but you got to try to, you know, nip those in the bud, which I think I'm doing a decent job of.
Well, who doesn't make mistakes? But you know, when you look ahead now to the core of American tennis,
Yes.
The other day Johnny Mac was here. He said, you know, this is a very special, unique era right now. We have a group of guys that can really go deep soon once Novak retires. An American could win a Grand Slam very soon.
Yeah. Well, look, on the men's side, we have a good chance potentially to win a Grand Slam, at least better than we've had in years past. And I was #1 American for a long time, but I mean, I'm not ashamed to say it was probably a little bit weaker era in men's tennis. I was always ranked, you know, 11 or 12 in the world. #1 American for a long time. I was like the only American in the top 50 or something. It was crazy. But now that's different. But at the same time, there could be two dudes at the top of the game that are very, very young that might be separating themselves from the pack. We'll see. Hopefully not. We'll see one of those matchups tomorrow. I think at 1 o'clock I heard. I'm assuming it'll be right here with Sinner and Shelton. So that's going to be a very good. Is that a night match? Oh well, Ben today told me 1 o'clock. You'd think he would know. But actually, you know, that's perfect. The first night match is still, you know, it can get cold here at night. I think that the little warmer conditions will help him. But that's a big measuring stick for him to see how he can, you know, go toe-to-toe with Yannick. I mean, he actually beat him in their last match, I believe, in Shanghai. But, you know, this guy's coming off a Grand Slam win, and then he won in Rotterdam, so he's on a 14-match win streak to start the year. Pretty good.
Yeah, certainly, and he certainly wows a crowd and can draw a crowd. And you're too humble. 16 titles, #8 in the world at one point, Jon, and the biggest server in the game, the most aces in ATP history. So that's not nothing. Jon, there's a huge crowd here, so I'm going to stop asking questions, and we're going to get some questions from the fans. How's that? Go ahead.
Okay. Truth or dare moment.
She's out of the gate. Okay.
At the end of your marathon match with Mahou, tell me honestly, what was the first thing that popped into your head?
What was the first thing about, like, thank God? And that match was no fun to play in.
No.
Like, really, it was not any fun. These guys weren't even born yet. They definitely weren't. And it was horrible to be a part of it. I actually, like, physically held it together, but then after that match ended, it was all sorts of, like, press to do, which is ridiculous for a first round match. But I had to come back and try to play the next day, and that did not go well. And I had to put it this way, to put a good context on it. I had 113 aces in that match. I had 0 in the next match. The only match in my career where I had 0 aces. That just goes to show how bad I felt, like, physically. So it was good, I guess, to win that match, but playing in it was no fun. I actually saw my opponent in that match this morning. He's still playing doubles. Yeah, Nico Mahoud. He's a pure doubles player now, so I ran into him. We have a very good relationship. Yeah.
How many days off after that tournament?
I didn't, well, because I lost in the second round, you naturally have some days off because the Grand Slam still goes on for, 10, 11 more days or whatever it was. But I played, I think I played 11 days later, and I felt okay. And at that point I was still young. I was like 25 or something, so I thought I could recover like no problem. And I kind of did, but then as that summer wore on, and like I was playing in the hot, humid conditions in DC, and that's what happened. I was playing in DC, and I completely hit a wall, and I had to pull out of the next tournament just to go back home and just recover. Because like people, of course, I was physically tired, but I was I think more mentally tired because I was asked about that question. Thanks for bringing it up. I was asked about that question I couldn't escape that match. So like being able to go home and just like shut everything off, I think helped me a little bit.
Who would you say has been the hardest to play in your career?
That's a great question. The hardest to play in my career, I mean, I've played everyone, but I mean, I would say like a locked-in Djokovic. I mean, well, when is he ever not locked in? But I played him a bunch. I played him once in a match that no one would ever remember. We played in Beijing, I think in the semifinals, and I was pumped to play him and went to bed, and I go to look at the weather the next day because we were playing at night, and I saw that it was going to drop below 50 degrees, and I'm like, oh no. Because if it's cold, that's not good for me, especially against Novak Djokovic, and he was dialed in. And he beat me 6-2, 6-1. Just that, like, his high level is the best I've ever seen. So I would say Novak.
Do you think the tour nowadays, the schedule or the conditions, the courts, the balls, is harder on players' bodies or better than it was before when you were playing?
You know what? I'm a little bit different perspective than that. I mean, the tour, it's a very long season, but no one forces you to play every week. You sort of, you can make your own schedule. Of course you want to play the Grand Slams and the Masters events like this. So you sort of have to tailor your schedule around those events. I don't have much sympathy for players that play every single week and then complain about the schedule. Like, you don't have to do that. I also don't think the courts are, like, speed-wise, are as uniform as everyone likes to think. I mean, I think there's a good variety of speed to, especially on hard courts, that we play all throughout the year. I mean, for instance, like last week was the two big tournaments were Acapulco and Dubai. Acapulco is a surface very similar to this, but Dubai is very, very fast. And so Miami, even next week, last year they changed it was much faster in this. So a lot of people talk about how all the courts are very, very slow, especially on the hard court side. I don't really feel that. The balls is an issue. I think we change balls too often, and that's very tough on everyone's elbows and shoulders, and it just kind of the wear and tear of that can be a lot on your serving arm especially.
All right, one more question before John has to go. Yes, go ahead.
What player have you played that had like the best slice?
The best slice? No, that's a good question. Oh, I mean, Federer's got an unbelievable slice, especially on return. A good buddy of mine just retired officially yesterday, Steve Johnson. An incredible slice because his two-handed backhand was garbage. So, and if he was in here, he wouldn't be mad at me for saying that. So it's like, he had to just naturally develop a great slice because that was how he was going to compete, and he had a very, very good one.
You know what? He has a question.
Yeah.
He'll be the
Who
last.
was
Yeah.
the first person you played against?
The first person I ever played against, like on the Pro Tour?
Yeah.
Holy moly. You know what? I got the answer for you. It's not cool, but I played in 2007 right after I got my first ATP match was against this big, some of you tennis fanatics here probably know his name, big, tall guy from Belgium, left-handed Dick Norman. Anyone remember that name? Kind of, right? He was a good player, but my first ever win on the ATP tour was a good one. In Washington, D.C., I beat Tim Hinman for my first ever win. So in 2007, after I left college, I was unranked. I won 1 Futures. 2 tournaments later, I won a Challenger, and then the week after that in Washington, D.C., the ATP event, I made the finals of it. So I went from unranked to like 120 in the world off like 4 tournaments, which is insane. But I think the reason why that happens is because college tennis prepared me well for the Pro Tour for sure.
All right, well, Jon Isner, thank you so much for stopping by.